Why, hello there, friends. Why, hello there, friends. It's Emma here, the Bookish Princess. I think this is working. I can't tell. If you guys can see me and hear me, let me know in the comments. Here, I can real quick pull it up on my phone to see if it comes up. I don't think I've gone live on YouTube before. So this should be really fun, though. We're going to do a little bookish discussion of Leaf by Niggle, a short story by Tolkien. Okay, I think it's working. Oh, yep, there I am. Okay. This is really fun. Oh, thank you. Oh, look. Oh, hi from Paris. Oh, my goodness. Hi, guys. Thank you for coming. It's so fun to see your chats. And hopefully some of you read the story. If you didn't, I thought it might be fun to read a couple of my favorite passages out loud, because that's always my favorite part of a book or a short story is the, lots of the quotes and the author's way of phrasing things. So yes, I thought we'd read some passages out loud, although I know some of you read it. I got a message from someone on Instagram saying that they'd ordered it and they were excited. So this is really fun. Oh, hi, Margaret. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Elizabeth. Hi, Ms. Hi, Sihaya. Oh, my goodness. This is awesome. Hi, Oswald. Hope everyone's doing well. Having a nice Saturday night. All right. So let me pull up. I had some of the things here. This is such a fun short story, like if you're a Tolkien fan, because for a long time, I'd read Lord of the Rings and I knew I liked Lord of the Rings, but I had no idea he'd written these short stories that are not in the Lord of the Rings universe at all. So Leaf by Niggle is one of them, but also I have Leaf by Niggle on my Kindle, but these two are actually my dad's books. There's Farmer Giles or Giles, I never know how to pronounce that, of Ham, and Smith of Wootton Major. So it's fun that Tolkien wrote these other things. And that, it's fun to read something that's not the Lord of the Rings universe. I read a biography of Tolkien once, which was so interesting, like just to read how the whole Lord of the Rings universe evolved and how it was actually his love of language that was what kind of inspired the characters, because first he invented these languages like the Elvish language and the dwarf language, and then he invented the characters and like the history, a long history going back ages and ages to fit the languages. But if Leaf by Niggle, if you've read Leaf by Niggle, and I should probably say we are going to be kind of talking about the whole story. So if you don't want spoilers, I always try to give a spoiler warning. Sometimes I forget in my bookish videos. But Leaf by Niggle is fun when you think about Tolkien as an artist and a writer, because like in Leaf by Niggle, our main character is a painter, but you can see a lot of parallels between how Tolkien thought of his own works and his own writing, because I think he was always like trying to perfect it, like trying to get it just right and like trying to fill in this huge lore and history, like in the Silmarillion, the backstory of Lord of the Rings. But it was always, I think he always felt like he never finished it. He never perfected it. There was always like another legend or another, character he wanted to fill in the details for. So in Leaf by Niggle, the way Niggle, the painter, like never feels like he has enough time, like never really feels like he can get on with his painting. I think that in a lot of ways, Tolkien was kind of writing about his own feelings as a writer, as a creator. So, all right. It's good to see your smiling face. It's so good to see you guys here. Baron and Luthien. Yes, I have read that one. I read the Silmarillion only once. I need to go back and read it again, because there's so much in the Silmarillion that like it takes a while to sink in. You don't remember all of it. Hi from Australia. Oh my goodness. You guys are from all over the place. All right. So I have some of the passages up here that I thought we would read, and then chat. So feel free to type up what you think about it, and then I'll pause and read the comments every once in a while. So he would spend a long time in a leaf. That does sound like something Tolkien would do. All right, so I really love the beginning of this story and the way he kind of sets it up. So first of all, just read the first couple passages here. There was once a little man called Niggle who had a long journey to make. He did not want to go, indeed, the whole idea was distasteful to him, but he could not get out of it. He knew he would have to start sometime, but he did not hurry with his preparations. Niggle was a painter, not a very successful one, partly because he had many other things to do. Most of these things he thought were a nuisance, but he did them fairly well when he could not get out of them, which in his opinion was far too often. The laws in his country were rather strict. There were other hindrances too. For one thing, he was sometimes just idle and did nothing at all. For another, he was kind-hearted in a way. You know, that sort of kind heart. It made him uncomfortable more often than it made him do anything. And even when he did anything, it did not prevent him from grumbling, losing his temper, and swearing, mostly to himself. I just love that description. And I feel like that's the kind of kind heart I have. Like, I think a lot of people have that kind of kind heart where it's like you wish you didn't feel bad, or like you wish your conscience wasn't pricking you and wasn't making you do the thing that you don't want to have to do. All the same, it did land him a good many odd jobs for his neighbor, Mr. Parrish, a man with a lame leg. Occasionally, he even helped other people from further off if they came and asked him to. Also, now and again, he remembered his journey and began to pack a few things in an ineffectual way. At such times, he did not paint very much. He had a number of pictures on hand. Most of them were too large and ambitious for his skill. He was the sort of painter who can paint leaves better than trees. He used to spend a long time on a single leaf trying to catch its shape and its sheen and the glistening of dewdrops on its edges. Yet he wanted to paint a whole tree with all of its leaves in the same style and all of them different. That reminds me of Lord of the Rings, like that he wanted to like create this sweeping universe, this entire universe with ages upon ages of history. But then he also wanted to, create Frodo and Bilbo and like all the individual characters and make them, the individual lands and make them as perfect as they could be. There was one picture in particular which bothered him. It had begun with a leaf caught in the wind, and it became a tree. And the tree grew, sending out innumerable branches and thrusting out the most fantastic roots. Strange birds came and settled on the twigs and had to be attended to. Then all round the tree and behind it, through the gaps and in the leaves and boughs, a country began to open out, and there were glimpses of a forest marching over the land and of mountains tipped with snow. Niggle lost interest in his other pictures, or else he took them and tacked them onto the edges of his great picture. Soon the canvas became so large that he had to get a ladder, and he ran up and down it, putting a touch there, rubbing out a patch there. When people came to call, he seemed polite enough, though he fiddled a little with the pencils on his desk. He listened to what they said, but underneath he was thinking all the time about his big canvas and the tall shed that had been built for it out in his garden, on a plot where once he had grown potatoes. I love that like he's so impractical, like this painting just takes over. And I think that's kind of how Lord of the Rings was, because first he wrote The Hobbit and finished The Hobbit, which began as just like a children's story he would tell his kids. But then obviously it did well and people wanted more. And so he tried, he wanted to write Lord of the Rings, but it was supposed to be, I think, like one children's book, like a kind of sequel to The Hobbit. And then it just grew and grew and sort of spiraled out of control. And I think it took his publishers were waiting and waiting, and it took him longer and longer, but he did eventually finish it. We're lucky he got through Lord of the Rings. Okay, let's see what you guys are saying here. Pilgrims Progress. I still haven't read Pilgrims Progress. I really need to read that at some point. Oh, Margaret, yes, you'll have to read it when you get your copy in the mail. Yes, I love the creativity of Niggle. Like, I feel like as a creative person, I relate to it so much. Like that whole process of like this idea just kind of grabs you and it won't let you go, and you have to do it. You have to make it. Like my if you guys caught it, I did a video a while ago that was BTS, the Korean group that I really like. They have it's Tolkien actually. They have a lot of like Tolkien kind of touches in their music videos and stuff. And in one of their recent music videos, there were a whole bunch of things that made me think of Tolkien. And at first I was like, no one's gonna watch this. Like this, I won't make that video. But like it just like kept gnawing at me at the back of my mind. And then eventually the members in the group reacted to that music video and they themselves mentioned Lord of the Rings. So then I was like, you know what, I just need to let this idea run its course and make it happen. So that was a fun video. You could go watch that after this if you haven't yet. I love how descriptive. Yes, Tolkien's descriptions. Oh, hi from Michigan. Hi, Wanda. his descriptions I do really love. And in Lord of the Rings too, I feel like the descriptions in Leaf by Niggle kind of remind me of some of those passages in Lord of the Rings where, we're riding across Rohan with Gandalf and Aragorn, and like just the way he describes everything is so beautiful. And with this painting, it's the same way. Like you can see not just the painting, but you can see the vision that Niggle had that he was trying to translate into a painting. You can see like that leaf that he saw in his mind that he was trying to get like the edges of the light on it just right. I wish I knew how to paint better. I think it's when I've tried it, like watercolor and things, it's really fun. But I feel like that would be a fun skill to develop more of. And especially like playing with the light and figuring out like how to get the colors and shapes and shadows just right is a real art form. So let's see. So that's our setup of the beginning of Leaf by Niggle. Let's see. Oh, there was one more paragraph here from the beginning I was going to read. So the picture, where was I? Oh, here we go. He could not get rid of his kind heart. I wish I was more strong-minded, he sometimes said to himself, meaning that he wished other people's troubles did not make him feel uncomfortable. But for a long time, he was not seriously perturbed. At any rate, I shall get this one picture done. My real picture before I have to go on that wretched journey, he used to say. Yet he was beginning to see that he could not put off his start indefinitely. The picture would have to stop growing and get finished. That's the way I feel sometimes when I'm editing videos. It's like I could keep editing it, I could keep perfecting it, but like at some point you just have to be done. Like you have to hit publish, like you just have to step away. One day, Niggle stood a little way off from his picture and considered it with unusual attention and detachment. He could not make up his mind what he thought about it and wished he had some friend who would tell him what to think. Actually, it seemed to him wholly unsatisfactory and yet very lovely, the only really beautiful picture in the world. What he would have liked at that moment would have been to see himself walk in and slap him on the back and say, with obvious sincerity, "Absolutely magnificent. I see exactly what you are getting at. Do get on with it and don't bother about anything else. We will arrange for a public pension so that you need not." Which then I think the next line was like, there was no public pension. Like that was a dream. But oh my gosh, I love that description because I feel that way too sometimes. It's like, I just want my future self to walk in and be like, yes, like you did a great job. This video, this like thing that you're working on, like that was the right thing to put your attention into. Like this is gonna go places, like great job. Because sometimes when you're working on something, a video or some other creative project, you're just like, is this worth it? Like, is it really going anywhere? Am I doing enough? Like, and I feel like there are so many different creative things that like I could be doing or you could be doing. Like, I could be making a video for my channel, or I could be like trying to write a story, or I could try to learn how to paint, or, like there's so many different interests I have in mind. And it's like, which one is the one? So I really like how Niggle had that same worry and same like, oh, you just wish you could have that certainty. But for whatever reason, we don't get that certainty. Let's see. I am no Bob Ross. Yeah, I've never even tried a Bob Ross tutorial. I'd really like to. My cousin and I put this in my previous reading vlog. We've been doing once a week, usually Monday nights, is our Beatrix Potter painting night. So we go through the Beatrix Potter books, which are right there on my bookshelf, and we pick out a painting and we recreate it. And Becky, my cousin, she actually was in a class, which obviously got canceled because of this pandemic. So she had already started, and hers is like super precise because I think they were showing them how to like do the outlines. And so like hers is so beautiful. Like it looks just like the painting. And I'm like, when I paint, I'm trying to remember this painting class I took probably like 3 or 4 years ago. And it was a really fun class. After I took it, I've always meant to like paint more, go to another lesson. But the teacher was very like relaxed and like, like abstract. Like he was not like, we never used ink at all. It was always just the watercolor and blending it out, and like really beautiful, just two different styles. But it's fun to paint with Becky because hers is like so beautifully precise and mine is just like even more abstract than Beatrix Potter. But it is really fun. Let's see, Margaret, how are you doing? I'm doing well. I hope you guys are doing well during the quarantine too. It is good to read. I feel like towards the end of March and even like beginning of April, like I was just kind of stressed out and like out of my normal rhythms. And so I wasn't reading as much as I normally do. Also, Animal Crossing had just come out. So it's like whenever I was stressed about something, I would just play Animal Crossing. But I feel like I've been getting back into more of a better, rhythm, because it's so like the situation right now, all of your normal rhythms are gone. Like my normal rhythm of, going to my real job every day, and I'd stop to get coffee here, and like I'd go to lunch there, or sometimes we get takeout. Like all of those normal rhythms are gone, and you have to kind of recreate the rhythm. And of course, like I'm working from home, so like I'm in the same space where I normally do, just all my at home stuff and like my YouTube channel. But like now I'm also doing my real job here. And so it's just, it's an adjustment, I think, for everybody. But overall, I'm doing well. I hope you guys are finding a new rhythm. I feel like there have been a couple weeks where I just didn't have a rhythm and I was playing Animal Crossing, but now I'm starting to sort of get back into it a little bit more. Things, I think having like weekly things like painting night with my cousin, like that really helps, like to have something definite to look forward to. Yes, I like to consider myself a writer. See, I do too. I feel like I don't, put enough attention into my writing. Like I have these ideas for novels and books that I like to try, but like you just need to sit down and do it. And I have not, I put my energy generally into like these videos and other things. And I just don't get it into my writing. But that's why what I love about Niggle too is that he like, although he seems to do a better job with his painting, but even it's like he knows he could do more if he could just buckle down to it. But there are always so many distractions. Yes, Ellie's anticipating the ending. I love when he gets to be inside the painting. He spent so much effort. That's like the best part. The way it's so fun, the way the story turns. I know when I first read it, I did not expect that at all. Like when they talked about the journey he's taking, like it sounds kind of mystical, but you're not exactly sure what kind of journey it is. And of course, I already did the spoiler warning, so hopefully you guys don't mind. It turns out that the journey is death. It's the journey to the next life. Although, is that ever specified? That's definitely how I read it, as like pretty much that's the interpretation. But I guess, they never say. So I guess you could interpret it as him just going to some other world. I interpret it as him passing away. Actually, wait. At the end, don't they talk about how like they're redistributing his property? So I think it is confirmed that it's that. But it's told in such a mystical, fantastical way that, you're not like you're not entirely sure where you are and what land you're in. But yeah, I just love that twist. Like it's so kind of unexpected. Let's see. It's hard to know which project will be worthwhile. Yes. Mary Poppins. Yes, right. You're right. The way he's able to go into the painting, it's like Mary Poppins jumping in. Oh, the medieval play Everyman. And is there one version of Everyman, or is that one of those plays where there's like multiple versions of it? Because I think I know what you're talking about, but I don't think like I know like if there's a definitive version that I've read. Leaf by Niggle, though, Rachel's mentioning Everyman, but another that has parallels to Leaf by Niggle, but another book that has so many parallels to Leaf by Niggle is The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis. And of course, C.S. Lewis and Tolkien were friends. And like Tolkien had a lot to do, I think, with when C.S. Lewis converted back to Christianity. So I would love to know. I need to Google this sometime because I wonder if it's out there, information of it. Did they have conversations about The Great Divorce and Leaf by Niggle? Because there are so many parallels. The Great Divorce, and this spoilers for Great Divorce, this is the same kind of book where like you're not sure what world you are in the beginning, but then like it becomes clear that actually this is about the afterlife, and The Great Divorce is the divorce between heaven and hell. But it's so many parallels to Leaf by Niggle. I wonder if they had that. Let's see. No, not in Maryland. It's fun to see where all of you guys are from. If you haven't checked in, we have someone from Paris and Australia. Let's see. Oh, I like Sihaya. I hope I'm saying that right. I like the way you Atreides. Nice. We've got someone from Dune here. That's pretty great. Research. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up on your comments real quick. It's so fun to hear from everybody. We do all have our masterpiece to paint eventually. Is this going to be a monthly book club? I haven't decided yet. If you guys know of another short story that you think it would be fun to read and discuss. Oh, hello from Texas. Oh, Southern California. So fun. Yes, I wonder, because Inklings, they had a club called Inklings, C.S. Lewis and Tolkien in Oxford, at, oh, what was the name of the pub? The Eagle and Child? Isn't that the pub where they'd meet? So I wonder if they discussed The Great Divorce and Leaf by Niggle there. So fun. Yes. Anyway, so we're kind of midway through the story. Niggle is working on his picture, and it's taking him a long time. He never quite has enough time to devote to it. Where is it? Oh, so then obviously the coachman comes, and it's time for him to take his journey, but he did not get ready for it. And I didn't have this to read out, but of course, in that part of the story, at like the last minute, his neighbor Parrish needs help. Like his wife is sick and his roof is leaking, and so Niggle ends up leaving his painting, even though he knows he has very little time left, and helps Parrish out. But then it turns out that it's time to take the journey, and he has nothing to take with him. So he kind of arrives in this otherworldly place. And I really liked this part of the description. It's like, we're not sure where he is. He's not sure where he is. At first, during the first century or so, I'm merely giving his impressions. He used to worry aimlessly about the past. One thing he kept on repeating to himself as he lay in the dark: I wish I had called on Parrish the first morning after the high winds began. I meant to. The first loose tiles would have been easy to fix. Then Mrs. Parrish might never have caught cold. Then I should not have caught cold either. Then I should have had a week longer. But in time, he forgot what it was that he had wanted a week longer for. If he worried at all after that, it was about his jobs in the hospital. He planned, so that's where he ends up after he's gone on his journey. He planned them out, thinking how quickly he could stop that board creaking or rehang that door or mend that table leg. Probably he really became rather useful, though no one ever told him so. But that, of course, cannot have been the reason why they kept the poor little man there so long. They may have been waiting for him to get better, and judging better by some odd medical standard of their own. So Niggle is in this hospital working away. At any rate, poor Niggle got no pleasure out of life, not what he had been used to call pleasure. He was certainly not amused, but it could not be denied that he began to have a feeling of, well, satisfaction, bread rather than jam. He could take up a task the moment one bell rang and lay it aside promptly the moment the next one went, all tidy and ready to be continued at the right time. He got through quite a lot in a day now. He finished small things off neatly. He had no time of his own, except alone in his bed cell, and yet he was becoming master of his time. He began to know just what he could do with it. There was no sense of rush. He was quieter inside now, and at resting time he could really rest. I think that's such a beautiful description. I'm like, I wish I could get to that place too, because I definitely feel, we were just talking earlier about how, with the pandemic and you're working from home, you're not going out, we've only been doing the grocery pickup in my house. So we'll troll the website, try to grab a pickup time. And then they bring your groceries right out to your car. You don't even have to go in. But yeah, it's like, I haven't been anywhere and all of your normal rhythms are off. But Niggle, obviously, in this new place, finds a better rhythm where he can really focus. And it is so hard to focus, especially these days with social media. You always have a million different distractions. Like when you pick up your phone, it's so easy to go on Instagram and you meant to look up one thing, but then 20 minutes go by and you're like, what was that thing that I was supposed to look up? I don't even remember. So I just really liked that description of how Niggle finally got into a good rhythm and was able to really focus his attention, because I think that is really hard. And I think Tolkien felt that way too. I know Tolkien worked as a professor at Oxford, but obviously he also had a big family at home, so he was providing for them, reading his kids bedtime stories and attending to his students. But then also in the back of his mind, he had Lord of the Rings and the whole realm of the Silmarillion, and he always felt like, I think he didn't have enough devoted time to really just sit down and hammer it out. He was always being pulled in different directions, although obviously he got himself pulled together enough to get it done. But I love that description of that's something to aim for, an ideal to work towards, to get into that rhythm. And where he talks about, you have no time, he had no time of his own. Sometimes you think, oh, this is my time. I don't want to give it to this chore. Or I don't want to have to do this thing. Someone is interrupting my time. But it's were you really being productive with your time? It's when you can order your time properly. It doesn't matter who it belongs to. It's like, it belongs to its proper task. And yeah, so I think that kind of sent me off on a fun when I reread that, on a fun thought. I love how Niggle becomes more adept at what Mr. Parrish did. Yes, I love that an instance of how Mr. Parrish works in with Niggle. Because when you read about Mr. Parrish earlier in the story, like at first it seems like he really is kind of pitiable, and like it is important for Niggle to help him, like especially when like the rain tiles fall in and like the wife is sick. But then it's like it turns out actually the wife only had a light cold. Like she didn't really have a fever. And Niggle, when he went for the doctor, he really got a fever. And so it's like Parrish didn't seem super likable. And yet Niggle's relationship with him turns out to be really important. I think that was the last, one of the later passages I had here. So obviously Niggle is working in the hospital, and he is like, even though it sort of seems like punishment, he's really like learning a lot and becoming really kind of determined, or not determined, but just like in control of his tasks and his time. But then there are two voices that he overhears. I loved this touch. And he overhears their conversation, and it's obviously they're kind of passing judgment on him. So perhaps, said the first voice. There's one voice saying that Niggle had some merits, Perhaps, said the first voice, but very few that will really bear examination. Well, said the second voice, there are these. He was a painter by nature, in a minor way, of course. Still, a leaf by Niggle has a charm of its own. He took a great deal of pain with leaves, just for their own sake. But he never thought that made him important. There is no note in the records of his pretending, even to himself, that it excused his neglect of things ordered by the law. Then he should not have neglected so many, said the first voice. All the same, he did answer a good many calls. A small percentage, mostly of the easier sort, and he called those interruptions. The records are full of the word, together with a lot of complaints and silly imprecations. I think that's so funny, because there are so many things that like you think of as an interruption, that like you were doing something else and like you don't want to have to put down your task and go help somebody or do something, but like you don't know actually how things are ordered. Like, when you're called to go on your journey the way Niggle's called to go on his, or when you get on the bus as they do in The Great Divorce, like you don't know like what is really going to have been an important task and what was maybe not an interruption, but what was actually a really important part of your journey, part of your story. That's what I love about The Great Divorce, is that when the characters arrive in, I guess it's purgatory, when they're on their way to the mountains, on their way to heaven, they see people from their past life, from their earthly life, and the way that the people they knew are presented and like the things that they did in life, like are completely different. Like I remember there's this one passage about a woman who's like has a whole huge train of attendants and like a whole bunch of like people celebrating her. She's obviously super important. And so like the narrator asks, oh, who is that? And he's told that she was a nobody in real life. She never was famous, or like she never wrote a famous novel or was a movie star, or like she never did anything that the world considered famous, but actually all of her little acts of kindness and all of her, everything she did in her life made her really important. And I love thinking about that. And I love the way like Leaf by Niggle and The Great Divorce kind of make you reevaluate, like what is an interruption and what is maybe a necessary task. And it is kind of like comforting, because then some of the things that like you felt like were a waste of time, you don't actually know. Like you can withhold judgment, maybe it wasn't a waste of time. Maybe it actually was pretty great. I forgot to tell you guys, I have a cup of tea here. I hope you guys have a cup of tea if you like one. Oh, the Brothers Grimm. I haven't read much of the Brothers Grimm, but yeah, that would be a fun one to do. Flannery O'Connor, she has good short stories. The Bible, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I don't think I've read that actually. Yes, so let's see. I'm gonna take a sip of tea and we'll see where we are in the story. Yes. Oh, you just finished your tea. That's lovely. It's never too late for me for tea, because it's 8:30, which is like Too late for coffee, but I feel like it's never too late for tea. This is Bewley's, the Bewley's Irish blend, which is one of my favorites. Oh, have you guys been, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments if you guys have been reading anything good. Great Divorce. Oh, William Blake's poem. That might be. That sounds, I don't think I've read The Marriage of Heaven and Hell, but that sounds like it probably is. Dinner and some coffee. I hope it's delicious. I keep meaning for dinner too. I did a Disney Club Level video a while ago, and I tried some Disney recipes, and so I've been thinking it might be fun to do another video where I try, like, you know, recreating Magic Kingdom recipes or Epcot recipes. So I keep meaning to, like, look some up and then, you know, put the ingredients on my grocery orders. Autumn's poetry. Oh, that's fun. I don't think I've read that poem. I always mean to read more poetry, but other things get in the way. Leaf Binding. Oh, they're both published in the same year. That wouldn't surprise me. I need to Google it. I feel like they're so similar, and like especially the end where they go towards the mountains. You know, I feel like in both cases, like sort of heaven is the mountains, and it's like I feel like it's almost like oh gosh, Mary Shelley, Frankenstein, the way Frankenstein came from when Mary Shelley and Lord Byron and Percy Shelley were like on the shores of Lake Geneva, and it was a dark and stormy night, and they challenged each other to write a ghost story. And Frankenstein is the most famous story that came out of that challenge, which Byron did a fragment, which he didn't finish. It was a vampire story. I don't know what Percy Shelley wrote. But like, I wonder if like, did Tolkien and C.S. Lewis challenge each other to write a story about the afterlife, and that's how we got the Great Divorce and Leaf by Niggle. Oh, I just finished Pride and Prejudice. Oh, that's so fun! It's always so fun to read Jane Austen and then watch a TV series like concurrently, because it just like comes alive so much more. You can notice so many similarities and differences. I posted a while ago on Instagram about Kate Middleton had posted a picture with books on her desk, and they were the Penguin English Library hardcovers. And I've been thinking about ordering them for a long time, and that post definitely pushed me to order them. So I've been reading Sense and Sensibility, which the hardcover is so beautiful. So yes, whenever I buy new books, it's like I have to break them in and read them at least once, even if it's like I have other Jane Austens on my shelves too. But it's so fun to reread and so fun to watch the movie at the same time and to compare. Oh, Green Dolphin Strait, Le Pays du Dauphin Bugler, Elizabeth Goudge. I love Elizabeth Goudge. And that's so good. Green Dolphin Street. It's also Green Dolphin Country. But I read that a little while ago, and it was kind of dense in a good way, but like just kind of heavy going to get through. But so worth it. Sir Gawain and the Green Knights, Farmer. Yes, I haven't reread these in a while. I need to reread Smith of Wootton Major too. It's fun to read those other ones. J.R.R. Yes, that's so good. All right. Oh, a real reading slump. I know that was me earlier this month. Yes, I'm actually rereading The Two Towers, and like I was getting through it. You guys know I love the Ents. I love the Forest of Fanghorn, and then I got through that point, and I just have kind of hit a slump. I need to pick up The Two Towers again and get back into that. Yes, so in back to Leaf by Niggle, the two voices are judging Niggle, and end up there's the quiet voice, which we can kind of tell, I think, is Christ, the second voice, who's kind of advocating for Niggle and reminding the judge of all the good points, and they decide to let him out of this hospital. And so he's just packed onto a train. They don't like explain where he's going. So he says, "Where does this train go, porter?" asked Niggle. "I don't think they have fixed its name yet," said the porter, "but you'll find it all right." He shut the door. The train moved off at once. Niggle lay back in his seat. The little engine puffed along in a deep cutting with high green banks roofed with blue sky. It did not seem very long before the engine gave a whistle. The brakes were put on and the train stopped. There was no station and no signboard, only a flight of steps up the green embankment. At the top of the steps, there was a wicket gate in a trim hedge. By the gate stood his bicycle, at least it looked like his, and there was a yellow label tied to the bars with Niggle written on it in large black letters. Don't you love train travel? I feel like just reading that makes me wish I could like take a train in England and it just kind of takes you to the spot. So Niggle pushed open the gate, jumped on the bicycle, and went bowling downhill in the spring sunshine. Before long, he found that the path on which he had started had disappeared, and the bicycle was rolling over a marvelous turf. It was green and close, and yet he could see every blade distinctly. He seemed to remember having seen or dreamed of that sweep of grass somewhere or other. The curves of the land were familiar somehow. Yes, the ground was becoming level as it should, and now, of course, it was beginning to rise again. A great green shadow came between him and the sun. Niggle looked up and fell off his bicycle. Before him stood the tree, his tree, finished. If you could say that of a tree that was alive, its leaves opening, its branches growing and bending in the wind that Niggle had so often felt or guessed, and had so often failed to catch. He gazed at the tree, and slowly he lifted his arms and opened them wide. "It's a gift," he said. He was referring to his art and also to the result, but he was using the word quite literally. I just think that's so beautiful. And like that is how a beautiful painting makes you feel, or like a creative impulse, like once you've gotten through it, like it's a gift that you're trying to give to others, but also like a gift to yourself, like getting through that project or like the vision that you had that you were trying to recreate. I just think, I love that. This twist that suddenly Niggle finds himself in the scene that he was trying so hard to get out and like never seemed to fully accomplish and fully get to. It's like it was here waiting for him. So it's like all that effort that he went to, even though he didn't finish the painting in real life. Like in real life, the canvas was torn up and they used the boards to repair the roof. But like here it is, it was waiting for him. Oh, I just think that's so beautiful. He went on looking at the tree. All the leaves he had ever labored at were there, as he had imagined them, rather than as he had made them. And there were others that had only budded in his mind, and many that might have budded if only he had the time. Nothing was written on them. They were just exquisite leaves, yet they were dated as clear as a calendar. So I love that. Like he can remember, or not like remember precisely, but like it's like, yes, that is the leaf that I had in mind on this day. And it's like maybe the leaf I never finished, but here it is. Some of the most beautiful and the most characteristic, the most perfect examples of the Niggle style were seen to have been produced in collaboration with Mr. Parrish. There was no other way of putting it. That's such a great twist. It's like this Mr. Parrish was always the thorn in his side, but like it's the thorn in his side that he needed that led him to create all of his beautiful painting and the beautiful leaves. Let's see, what are you guys saying? Ella Montgomery. I have a couple of sequels to Anne of Green Gables that I've never read, that I keep meaning to pull out and read. I might start on one of those. Pat of Silverbush. See, Heidi, that's fun. I reread that last year. That's so good. Oh, that's so fun. So fun to see your comments. Well, yeah, if we do a book club, that'd be fun. Or book tour. Love it too. Oh, Faramir. I do love Faramir. Soul in Darkness. Psyche. Is that the same one? There's a C.S. Lewis book called, I have it on my shelf somewhere. Since this is a Tolkien night, I feel like it's natural to sort of digress into C.S. Lewis. I'm looking at my bookshelf and seeing if I can see it because I can't remember the name of it. Oh, there it is. Till We Have Faces. That's about Psyche and Cupid, I think, but it's told from like the perspective of Psyche's sister, Orwell. I think that's a fun book. Yes. Till we have, that's it. Rachel knew. Till We Have Faces. Yes, I found a beautiful copy of that at a used copy at a library book sale, and I'd been meaning to read it forever, so it like felt meant to be that I finally found it, and it was so good to read. Yes, I feel like C.S. Lewis and Tolkien are such good authors to read together because the fact that they were friends and like they're different in some ways and yet similar in others, so it's really fun to like imagine what their conversations must have been because of course they had this book club Inklings where well, I guess it was more of like a writing club, because I think there were other writers from Oxford who would come and they would read out what they were working on. So it's like they probably did have conversations about most of what they were writing, which is pretty cool. Oh, hi from England. Yes, so towards the end, there was one more thing I was going to read out, I think. Yes, Niggle, it turns out that the leaves were produced in collaboration with Mr. Parrish, which is so great. And it's so great that we see Mr. Parrish again. Like, I feel like when it last left off, like Niggle had tried so hard to help Parrish, but Parrish just kind of took it for granted. And although, like, Parrish, I think he says, had, like, reason to be, like, he was kind of pitiable. You know, he did have a lame leg. Like, things were difficult for Parrish. He needed a helping hand, but also sometimes he was just sorry for himself for no reason. But Parrish shows up, and he ends up, because Niggle is trying to complete his garden, his real garden now. And he realizes that he needed Parrish, because Parrish was more of a farmer. Parrish did not like rip up his potato patch to make a painting shed. Parrish actually planted potatoes and garden things. So Niggle ends up needing Parrish to complete the landscape, and they work hard together and get it all finished. And it's just so fun to read that description. And then there's a brief interlude where they kind of go back down to earth, and they're talking to like people are talking about Niggle after he's left, after he's passed away, and like they're like, oh, he didn't amount to much, like they're kind of dismissive of him. But one of them kind of sticks up for him and says, well, he really knew how to paint leaves, which obviously I like how that was one of the things that the second voice, who I think of as Christ, was like, that's a point in Niggle's favor, is that he loved leaves. Like, he just loved this one thing so much that he put so much attention into it and really tried to recreate it and make it right. Like that was not an eccentricity. Like that was a point in his favor. But yeah, so this is after they're having a conversation about him, the people back on Earth, and they don't think much of him. That was probably the last time Niggle's name ever came up in conversation. However, Atkins was the guy talking about him, preserved the odd corner of the painting. Most of it crumbled, but one beautiful leaf remained intact. Atkins had it framed. Later, he left it to the town museum. And for a long while, Leaf by Niggle hung there in a recess and was noticed by a few eyes. But eventually the museum was burnt down, and the Leaf and Niggle were entirely forgotten in his old country. It is proving very useful indeed, said the second voice, as a holiday and a refreshment. It is splendid for convalescents, and not only for that. For many, it is the best introduction to the mountains. It works wonders in some cases. I am sending more and more there. They seldom have to come back. No, that is so, said the first voice. I think we shall have to give the region a name. What do you propose? The porter settled that some time ago, said the second voice. Trains for Niggle's Parish, in the bay. He has shouted that for a long while now. Niggle's Parish. I sent a message to both of them to tell them. What did they say? They both laughed till the mountains rang with it. And that's how the short story ends, which is just, the perfect ending. Is so sweet. And I love that, like, the little joke, like, that's what they named the sort of beautiful garden that they created that, like, then helps other people, obviously, to get through their journey and to kind of reorient themselves and, get into the right rhythm and to be able to continue on that journey to the mountains. Yes, whenever I revisit this short story, I just think it's so fun, and so many beautiful passages to think about, and so many fun parallels with, like, The Great Divorce. I reread this earlier this year too. And I like the way that imagines the afterlife, because, like, obviously, we don't know what's after death. Like, we can't guess at it, but, like, the way they picture it and the story they tell about it is very comforting, but, like, also has a lot of truth in it. I feel like it's not a bad picture, like, not a bad sort of groping in the dark and imagining what things might be like, especially that things that we think of as important here might not be important there at all. Like the names that are, like, the big names now, like, they, it could be an entirely different person who's the big name in the afterlife. So I just really love the way these stories kind of make you think in a new way, and are a fun story too. Like, I really like Niggle. He's a likable, relatable character. So yes, let's see. I like how they were they were such a sweet relationship between Parrish and Niggle, and I liked how they included Parrish's wife too, because like she's in it briefly before they take the journey, and like in the end when Niggle and Parrish are like walking together, and Niggle is meets a shepherd, probably again like Christ, who's ready to lead him further into the mountains, and Parrish is like, no, I'll wait for my wife, and help her on the way too. So let's see. Oh, Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit are monumental stories, but stories about death. I love thinking about The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings because like they're such great stories in and of themselves. But like Leaf by Niggle, like when you start thinking about the themes in them, like they really kind of open up, and you can apply them as metaphors in so many different ways. And I love how they relate to Tolkien's own story of his life, like the way he had this grand vision. He was trying to create this huge world, and like it turned out that he needed like this children's book, The Hobbit. Like it was just a story he told to his sons that was like kind of the key that unlocked that big world, and like the sort of focal point that allowed him to channel all of this amazing language and that he'd created, and like lore, and like he channeled it all into this fun story. So but it's like it was the little hobbits that like unlocked it, just as how in Lord of the Rings, like it turns out it's the little hobbits that no one thinks of as grand or like important in battle, but like they're the ones that are needed to save the world. And the hobbits are also the thing that Tolkien needed to save his huge world, or be able to use that huge world and kind of channel it into a thing. So fun. BTS can't substitute for doors. The BTS voices escorts to Bilbo. Oh my gosh, that would be hilarious. Oh my goodness. Yes, BTS, they're doing because their concerts were either canceled or postponed. They're supposed to be in concert this summer, and they're doing online concerts. Like they're live streaming old concerts, and they're doing it again. They did it last night, and they're doing it tonight too. So I'm excited for that. I don't know if there are any ARMY here who are going to be watching the BTS concert, but I might try to take a short nap because the concert stream is like, I think Korea time, it's noon to like midnight. But of course, US time, it's like 11 p.m. to like 8 a.m. So I'm not going to stay up all night, but I'm thinking maybe I'll watch some of the first concert and like go to bed and then wake up early and watch some of the last concert. We'll have to see. I'm from Florida. I think the one I read was the one by John Carpenter. It's such a so fun to read about Tolkien's life. They did a movie about Tolkien. Was it just called Tolkien? It wasn't too long ago. It was all right. I felt like they could have done a lot better job. It wasn't great. I felt like Tolkien's life deserved better than that. But hi, Emma. Let's see. Which animals would they be? I'm gonna have to go back and read all the comments. I think I missed them. But yeah, it's so fun. Thank you guys for tuning in. And yeah, if you liked this, I'm trying to think of what's another book we would do as like a live stream book club. And maybe I'll do it while everyone's still in quarantine, because I know it's like online things are the only thing you can do right now, because we can't have in-person gatherings. The Way Center Publications. No, I don't think I have. Stream Animal Crossing. I thought about doing that. I feel like I'm trying to take it step by step. I never had the game capture card, which is how you like record your gameplay. But I think there is a way to live stream it too. I don't know how many people watching now play Animal Crossing, but I've thought about doing that as a live stream too. Yes, that's true. They only had 2 hours to squeeze into that movie. Yeah, but it was like visually there were lots of, there were some disturbing scenes in Tolkien, and I thought they were kind of just like making them more disturbing than they needed to, from the war especially. But there were other scenes that were like beautiful, and they obviously were trying to like do parallels between Lord of the Rings and Tolkien's life. But yeah, hopefully they'll do another Tolkien Tolkien movie adaptation. Oh, it was made without the family's consent. That's too bad. I heard that Amazon is doing with the family's consent, I think, or is thinking of adapting the Silmarillion. But like the article I read about it, it didn't sound promising. It sounded like the Amazon people like weren't planning on using everything from the Silmarillion. I have to look that up again. I haven't heard about that in a while, so maybe yeah, I was sad they left his faith out of it, out of the Tolkien movie. And you're right, I don't think there was a C.S. Lewis mention. I think they in that movie that we're talking about, it was about his early life because he had this really close group of friends at school, and they had a fun acronym for the club. Yeah, like it was like that movie, like there were so many great things that they like touched on and brought in, but then like it's like they just didn't develop them enough, I felt like. But that's a fun story to think about is his early companions. And I think that's probably why they left C.S. Lewis out, because they wanted to keep that focus. But it is too bad. I feel like on YouTube I've seen a clip of like Tolkien and Lewis talking about faith. So I wonder if there is another movie about Lewis and Tolkien's friendship. Yeah. But yeah, it is Tolkien. It was so bizarre that, I mean, I guess not in a way predictable, but also a ridiculous decision that they didn't include much about Tolkien's faith, because his Catholic faith was like one of the most important things about him. And like in Leaf by Niggle, in Lord of the Rings, like you can really see that faith. So the fact that they tried to edit it out of the movie, it was like, really? Like, you can't do that. It doesn't work. Although I did enjoy that O'Brien, Chief O'Brien from Star Trek, was Tolkien's priest. They did have the priest at least, because Tolkien's father died when he was pretty young, and so he lived with his mother and his brother. But there was like a local parish priest who helped them out a lot and who like helped Tolkien through school. So I thought that was funny that was Chief O'Brien was Tolkien's priest. Wheaton College 7, an Anglo-American literary review. I'll have to look this up. It's about Inklings. That sounds really fun. Oh, sorry, we don't mean to make you not want to watch the movie. It's worth watching once. I probably wouldn't necessarily sit through it again, but there were some fun scenes. I would recommend you read the biography of Tolkien first, so that way like you know the whole story, and then you'll know what they did well and what they left out. But yeah, it's worth watching once, I'd say. Dorothy Sayers. Did Dorothy Sayers know Tolkien and C.S. Lewis? Because that would be amazing. Was she at Oxford or Cambridge? No, it must have been Oxford, because Lord Peter Wimsey, and that's all at Oxford. Wow, I did not know they might have known each other. Elizabeth Goudge, who is such a great author, we mentioned her a little earlier. I don't think she ever met Tolkien, but she had 2 dogs. She named 2 of her dogs like Frodo and Bilbo, and she loved Lord of the Rings, which I thought was so sweet. Oh my gosh. Sayers was often present at Inklings. Are you kidding me? I am going to look this up. That is absolutely amazing, because I love Dorothy Sayers. I've been meaning, that's been on my list. I have right here. I'll grab it real quick. Because I've been meaning to get these off the shelf here. My Dorothy Sayers, this is Peter Wimsey and Harriet Vane. I couldn't remember her name for a minute. I love her. But these are such good books. And Lord Peter Wimsey is the best. And she translated, was she Catholic? Or just, I think she must have been Christian at least. She translated Dante, like Dante's whole, 3 volumes. And so it's just fun that like she also wrote these mysteries, which they're sort of like, they remind me of like P.G. Wodehouse, like as if Bertie Wooster was like a detective, he would be like Lord Peter. So I just love that she did that. Those 2 totally different things. She translated Dante and she wrote these great, very popular mysteries. But oh my gosh, that is amazing. I have to look this up now, or I have to read more about it. Thank you guys for telling me that. That's so fun to know. It's so fun to when you find out that like some of your favorite authors were friends with each other. So good. Oh, a lot of articles about Sayers. Okay, I definitely need to look up That's journal 7 then. Yes. Well, yes, it's been an hour, so I'll probably start to wrap this up. But thank you guys for joining and watching along. And I'm gonna have to look back through these comments and hear what everyone's recommendations were. Oh, she was Roman Catholic. I thought she might have been. Also a playwright. Yeah, whenever I look up Dorothy Sayers at the library, there are like so many different articles in addition to all the Lord Peter things that yeah, I always wanna look up more. Yes, Tolkien and the war. Tolkien went through the war. Obviously, we're going through some rough things now, or difficult, or well, uncertain times. Not a war, thank goodness, but yes, yes. Hopefully, I think it is helpful sometimes to like read things from World War I or II, or like read things from past authors who went through difficult times, like who went through their own uncertain times. Like they didn't know how things were going to turn out, but they had faith and found a way to get through. And so at times like this, it's good to like read things from that era because they kind of inspire you and maybe give you an idea of something to do or try. Yeah, thank you guys for coming. It's just so fun. Yeah, tell me. I know you guys mentioned some suggestions, but what you would like to read? Because like, if we did another book club in a couple weeks, we could do like a Jane Austen one, which I would always have plenty of things to say about Jane Austen. But I thought Leaf by Niggle might be a fun thing fun one to try because it's pretty quick read. Like it really is only like half an hour or an hour. Merci beaucoup. Austin, see if I that would be fun. We could do Lady Susan because Lady Susan's on the shorter side. So that way like people would have time to read it. And it's so funny and it's so underrated too. I feel like people often just focus on the main 6 and they forget about Lady Susan. But Lady Susan is just so funny and like so different because Lady Susan is the villain in the story and it's told from her sort of perspective. It's epistolatory, so it's written in letters. But Lady Susan's just such a great villain. She's just such a delicious villain. Like I might like her better than like Lady Catherine or like Jane Austen did villains really, really well, but like especially since we get to go inside Lady Susan's head, and see what she's writing to her friend. Like there's something about her that's just so hilarious and like bad, but like relatable. And like you sort of admire her even while you're like glad she didn't succeed. You also, kind of admire her scheming and everything. So yeah, that'd be fun. Maybe we'll do an Austen one. Oh, lots of votes for Austen. That's so good. You love to say yes, exactly. It's like you love Lady Susan, but you also love to hate her. It's like both at the same time. Well, maybe we'll do that in a couple weeks. I will so that'll give people time to read it. So maybe like in early May, I'll make sure I post on Instagram and like the YouTube community when we pick time. But this time seemed to work well for people, I think. Although I think people mentioned some people from other time zones, this wasn't great. So if like maybe earlier in the day better for like UK. I can't remember what time it is in the UK right now. Or Sanditon. Oh yeah, the TV show. I watched the first couple episodes and like I had hope, and then later on I was like, where is this going? And actually, I haven't even watched the last few episodes of Sanditon. I haven't watched the new adaptation of Emma yet either, and I think that is streaming, so I need to finally watch that. So anyway, thank you guys for. I couldn't even finish it. Yes, but I think the new Emma adaptation. I watched the trailer and I wasn't impressed. I felt like, I don't know, I just felt like Emma was too snobby and they hadn't struck the right note, and the actors and actresses I didn't think meshed. But then I watched another trailer that came out later and I liked it a little better. Like I felt a little like I'd warmed up to it a little bit. So I need to watch the full movie. Like I feel like I'm going in with pretty low expectations, but that's actually good because if you have high expectations, they'll probably be disappointed. So I need to watch that. But yes, a Jane Austen book club would be super fun. We could even do I've been meaning to reread some of her letters, Jane Austen's letters as well. So yes. All right. Well, I'm gonna wrap things up. Thank you guys so much for joining in and reading along and chatting with me. What's my next video? I'm trying to think. I'm hoping to do, look, I have lots of Disney vlogs that I haven't edited yet. So I'm hoping to get one of those up, and I'll probably do another hymn tomorrow because that's been really fun. I've been doing a hymn every Sunday. So yes, thank you guys for joining in. I hope you have a great Saturday night. If you're going to Bang Bang Con, BTS, get ready for it. Excited. I wish you well in your reads. And I'll talk to you guys again soon. Bye.